很多 homeowner 都有自己想法了。If you hide anything，
喂，等一下，我们大家都要自己问自己哦。
What's your problem? What's your problem?
现在新加坡的屋子越来越小，越来越贵。
How come your living hall got no TV?
那个什么书、什么 dog、什么 YouTube， 全部都有的，一看不要。
所以 the reality 真的就是，真的3万其实 cannot get you very far.
I ask myself again, the question is, what can you give me?
What's best for me is not best for you.
你要 balance
Renovation isn't just about tiles and mood boards. It's about people and the personalities, as well as the stories that help make the decisions. I'm Astley, aka the designer. Join me for the season 2 of the SIXiDER Show. Today we have 2 special guests, Shawn from Rezt and Relax and Leon Luo from Free Space in 10. So we give the mic to Shawn right now to explain a little bit about himself.
Okay, I'm Shawn from Rezt and Relax. My experience in this industry around 20 years.
Okay, welcome. What about you, Leon?
Hi everyone, I'm Leon. I'm from Free Space in 10, and I've been in the industry for about 18 years. Yeah.
Sure not, only 18?
Yeah.
老教already哦。
Okay.
So today's topic is actually quite an interesting one. It's essentially about commercial space and residential space. So I know the both of you, or rather the companies that you all both belong to, does a lot of residential, but also have commercial projects. And for Leon, it's actually residential is a specialization, but commercial you will encounter every now and then. So before we go into all the more heavy questions, we do very fast true and false questions first to kind of get the audience warm up to today's subject matter. True or false, good design is universal. What works in a home should also work in a commercial space.
False.
Why?
Because different application. Because what we do in the office may not be what we want to do in the home also.
Okay, maybe let me categorize. Because commercial is very wide. You got F&B, you got hospitality. Maybe let's say hotel. All right, hotel and home. Can it be treated the same way? Maybe Shawn?
Hotel and home is a different way because hotel is minimalist for the design. Got bed, a bit of wardrobe, something like that. But home, you want to be your lifestyle. Your house, you can build toilet look like hotel, but your home cannot be. Let's say you want to be your home like hotel. 每一个 hotel 都是 design 都不一样，你要跟哪一个 hotel？ 你要感觉自己的 lifestyle 在 build 你的 house。
I think true and false. So the design direction, if it's for the hotel owner, maybe it's going to be very different. Because you want to maximize space efficiency. So this plot of land, you want to as many rooms as possible. But of course, considering the comfort of individual rooms. Yeah, but the true part is we still want the hotel to look cozy, to feel cozy, so that tourists, travelers, they will come back again to this hotel and spend here. Yeah, but a home is different. Home, you are there every day, and it's more about how the space interacts with your lifestyle. Yeah,
Which is almost similar to what Shawn says. Basically, understanding the lifestyle. 那个空间基本上就是 it's not just 要 impress, because hotel sometimes 就是要 impress, but they don't really check all the boxes for function, lifestyle usage. Okay, let's go to the next question. True or false? A cafe-style home, right, is just as functional as it is aesthetic. Now, I think maybe even 5-8 years ago, right, a lot of people were doing a lot of like Scandinavian cafes. And then after a while, right, Scandinavian homes or this trend started to pick up. Everyone wants a Scandinavian home because they got inspired by Scandinavia, or rather the Scandinavian style. Do you all think this is true?
I think function and aesthetic might be 2 different things. I think to me, why cafes adopt Scandinavian styles very easily or very suitably is because Scandinavian styles uses a lot of styling, a lot of loose furnitures, which is very applicable to a cafe setting. But if you talk about the back end of a cafe, then maybe it's not that applicable.
If you want to bring the cafe to your home, okay, because cafe sometimes design is we got ambient light, open space, open shelving, then cement look. If every day you want to be at cafe, you'll be a bit cold at your home because open shelf you can collect dust. Then the cement look you get learn cold. The light is ambient. It's not enough for the at home.
So what you're saying is that basically maintenance is still a key thing lah. Commercial project, maybe they're going after a certain look. Yeah, but then when it comes to your home, like again, back to lifestyle, things like maintenance and all that is an important aspect lah. Just now we're talking about cafe, right? Maybe let's say office project versus residential project. True or false that office project usually they only care about a few areas like 老板的房间 or maybe the 大门, and then everywhere else in the office, right, they don't really care. Whereas home design, right, actually, if they're really going for interior designer, they would really care about every part, kitchen lah, bathroom lah, bedrooms and all that.
Office and residential is a different way because at office, right, heavy traffic, the layout, how big your office like at your home. Okay, 你的家只有几个人 be office because your staff a lot. Certain area at office you can be do like home, same like pantry, enough. Then other side you can be workspace and the 老板的房间. That one is a meeting area. Office you want to brand. 品牌也是很重要 for the 一个 office for renovation. 你不可以拿品牌来放在你的 home, because home is a lifestyle. Office is 品牌的空间.
To a certain extent true lah, but I think the emphasis on work area for the employees are still important for space efficiency. Again, space efficiency. We want the employees to work better to be more productive. But I do agree the aesthetic, the branding may not be in the work area. Cannot be too 花俏, you know. Yeah, but the visual impact will come at the entrance when they receive guests. So guests coming, wow, very nice lobby, go to the conference room, wow, very nice. So that's the impression part lah.
But these days 很多可能比较这种所谓新创的 startup
Open space.
open space， 然后他们很喜欢上模仿 Google 这样可能还有那个什么桌球pool table 啦，乒乓 table 啦，甚至 bean bags 像我们这公司我们其实一个 boardroom 都没有。然后我们这个整个 area 其实这边我们是做 podcast 也是来做吃饭的。我的意思是说 like they are maybe for some companies, right, they like to 模糊 that line because we spend like so many hours in the office
Less balance.
Yeah, like they always say work-life balance but how to give you work-life balance? Okay, now I make your workplace like it's a home like that Yeah, what do you think about this kind of approach?
I think the approach is, the intention is good but have to look at the context of the work scenario also. So I think nowadays we are also moving towards a lot of work from home situations where actually we need a more focused space to work rather than a homely space to work. Some cases not all cases. So it depends on what kind of industry we're working for. So again, the spectrum is so wide that we cannot detect one thing.
That's a good point Then I will ask this very technical question, right? In the old days, right, when we treat commercial project, they always say that, okay, we want the person to focus on the work. The lighting must be all bright white, right? Then, but today, aesthetic, right, is we want to use warm white. But warm white make the 老人家 will look at it and say, wow, that 怎么做工会很难 focus. Shawn, do you agree with that?
Agree. Normally, cool white, warm white, and warm light. Right? Warm white is means suitable. But 老人家的观念每次warm white 我看不到报纸，我要 daylight。他们的概念是说white color daylight，我看得比较清楚。Actually 不是这样的？你不要用 warm 就可以了，这是 warm white 是你给你的 office 也是一点点的 warm， 不是整个 office 都是白到完。example 我做一个 office。OK， 它的地方蛮不错，蛮大。它的 workspace conference room 和一个老板，他加了一个 pantry， 他有放一个 cozy area for bean bag，then 给他看他的 staff 来 relaxing area， 但是也是要看他的 space 够不够大不大，他几个 staff。如果你的2-3个 staff 你来 build 那个东西就 not work。
所以你的意思就是其实可以规划一些 cozy area， 让他们可以放松。不过集中的地方、做工的地方还是最理想，还是有那种白灯
OK，one way is
也是可以，也是可以。所以 that means you don't really agree that warm white will make people sleepy and therefore less productive.
No
No you
I feel it is a connotation of warm white. In the past, the older people see warm white as the fluorescent warm white. 哇，真的是很 dim, then 很 giddy 的. But nowadays, with LED technology, the warm whites are more consistent. So like at 3000K, it's actually not that yellowish. Yeah, so it's still cozy and effective at the same time. And a lot of people confuse the lights color
versus lumens.
Correct. So people will say, 我不要黄灯因为很暗, but doesn't make sense lah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I 100% agree with you on this because if I recall correctly, fluorescent tube, right, there's this component which is that inside got mercury ma. So over time they will degrade. So brightness really will dim. And then but they are still there. So you think that the light haven't blown out yet, so therefore the light is still functioning. But our eyes will see that it's actually very dim. Where you're absolutely right about the LED. LED only got two types. It's either blinking, spoil, or it's working, but it's always very consistent. Let's say whenever we get a commercial project, are there like crossover styles that you find that this residential can use? I cite an example, just now we mentioned cafe Scandinavian, as we all know, IKEA is the number one Scandinavian furniture retailer, right? So you can see their furniture in homes. You can also see them sometimes in cafe as well. But are there, aside from Scandinavia, are there any other style that does crossover? And maybe let's start with Leon.
Recently I realized a lot of gyms, they like to do a very industrial style, like cement screed walls or stucco walls. Then the lighting's very sportish, very spotlights kind of lighting. I think kind of suits that setting. So gym, you want people to work out, and it's like metal, very hard. So I think that kind of vibe kind of correlates lah. Rather than you cannot put Scandinavian in a gym lah. Too cozy, too relaxed already.
And that style can go into a resi space as well?
Resi space can also. I mean, again, resi is very subjective. If you like that style, then go ahead lor. Yeah, so I have clients who really like cement screed. They cement screed the entire room, entire space, which is fine if they are really into it. Yeah, but of course, as a designer, always want them first lah.
I think just now Shawn also mentioned that maybe certain styles is related to the brand's philosophy. For example, just now you mentioned gym. So the gym 有一种刚性，有一种所谓的 action, maybe even color scheme like red color and all that, right? Which is basically to kind of stir your emotion such that 你来运动就是要激烈一点嘛。Whereas at home, you want something more neutral, and then therefore some certain styles like resi 你会 avoid 的，赞同吗？
一般，为什么 gyms 我们就是来 exercise， 不是来 relax 的。relax 的我们的这 lighting 也是很重要 ，because relax 你可以去一个 cafe， 你要 gym 只要是激烈的运动嘛，连你们不可以说 OK 我要relax 那个 area 把它变成 cozy， 你不可以用到好像一个很 dim 的 lighting for gym，for 一个 house 也是一样，你要 balance。我有遇到我的 some of the customer。OK， he say 我要 gym， 我的 gym area 我要一个很 cozy 的 ，then 我们要怎样去规划，怎样 redesign this gym area for it？ 我要 same like 这个品牌的 gym area， 这个品牌的 gym area， 新加坡很多品牌嘛 ，then OK conform 我要整个 mirror， 我要看到我自己 look like 我的 gym area 更大 ，relaxing area 我们可以拿成一个好像 industrial 的 feel，gym 的东西很大，你也是要 under 你的 space 来 design 一个 gym 给它。最主要是 lighting and the color scheme for the wall。
我问你一个很奇怪、很另类的问题就是因为你在这行20多年嘛，会不会有一个 customer 跟你讲说，我的房间有像麦当劳cafe 的那个主题的黄色跟红色啦，有没有？
有遇到一个。他是因为我 renovation 他的 office 他也是有个 house 也是要做 OK 我要这个品牌的 color scheme OK 我 not advise 他因为你喜欢有时一阵子但是 end day 久了你不可能每天去买 donor 嘛OK 那个有可能我们要 advise 他你不要做太多的一个那个品牌的东西在你的家但是 color scheme no problem maybe 1 year later他不要了，他要别的 brand， 你可以改成那个 brand。
也就是说，因为一个品牌 they have to follow their brand guidelines and then the objective is only one, which is to showcase the brand and its philosophy. Whereas 在家你没有必要去 push 那个 brand 的 philosophy.
Yeah.
Do you think there are people who say they want their home to look like office?
Maybe lah. I think 什么东西都有可能嘛。I did a recording studio before because he's a musician 嘛. He has to record at home. So that's considered a workspace also. Yeah, or even a jamming room kind of thing. So all these things are very subjective.
I know your partner Raymond. I know he likes to do a lot of nostalgia project or project that's very colorful. Sometimes he even take the like 五角鸡 kind of look and bring it to the space. That's why I was very curious to understand in the portfolio of free space in then have you all taken something like that? You take maybe a kopitiam concept, which is commercial, right? It's still commercial, and put it at home.
I think it's more on the visual part, not the space planning part. Yeah, so like what you mentioned about nostalgia, and usually it's only this niche kind of clients will come for this kind of look lah. That these things bring them memories, bring them good times. So they want this kind of look.
They want to sustain it lah.
Yeah, but on the other hand, I met clients, I proposed Peranakan tiles. 这个东西是我以前没有钱的时候住的地方 then you know they don't want it, they reject it. So it's very
good memories, bad memories.
It's very emotional.
I see. It's interesting. So you're mentioning that space planning is one thing, and then the elements is another thing. By space planning, I think what you're referring to is circulation. That the flow of a home ultimately still must perform like a home.
Right.
Maybe to the audience, right? Can you elaborate a bit more on this?
So in the residential setting, you come in, I mean, ideally you have a foyer, put your stuff, blah, 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 and then you transit into your living and dining space. Then again, living dining space, people look at it differently. Living area, I think we are always fixed on the idea of having a TV console, sit down there, watch TV. But to certain cultures, it's more like an interaction space.
No TV.
Yeah, no TV. Just sit around like that. Yeah, the chairs will face each other one. Yeah, but to some people who look at it, how come your living hall got no TV? Yeah, but again, it's subjective lah. But the space, I will classify it as a public space. It can be for hosting, for your personal relaxation, for your family, a communal space. And then we move to, of course, back-end kitchen, that functional one. And then, of course, we moving to the rooms. You have bedrooms. If you have the luxury of space, you can have some work rooms, office space or study room, or even walk-in wardrobe. So that's a hierarchy of spaces lah. But if you talk about work setting, let's say a typical office space, yes, you go in, there's a reception, a space that receives people, like what I mentioned before, the lobby, the conference room. Then once you step beyond that, that is the main work area already. Yeah. Then again, based on how much space you have, you can cater for a pantry or relax area. Yeah. Then of course there will be maybe a boss room, the boardroom, that kind of thing. Yeah. So the hierarchy of spaces is very different in both settings.
What I hear from the both of you is that there's the traditional approach to things and it's also the modern approach to things. The modern approach to things, whether it's commercial or residential, it's really dependent on the occupants. In the past, right, where before iPad and all that, we always watch TV, right? And I always eat and watch TV. So much so that when I told myself that when I buy my house, right, my living room is going to be my dining hall, and my dining hall will have a TV. So I always eat and watch TV. That was my thoughts. Then of course now today, we don't even go to our living room to watch TV. We lie on bed and watch our iPads or watch your phone. So that has kind of changed the way that we innovate spaces. Do you have clients like that, Shawn, that actually tells you that, no, I don't want the traditional way of residential design?
Oh, I have. I got one of the client of the residential. They don't want TV at all at the hall area. 我没有看电视了 now. 我 got handphone, got iPad. 我的孩子全部都不看 TV. Then okay, 有什么 suggestion for 我的 living area? Okay, 刚才有讲的是 sound like 我要这个是我的 guest 很多，每次来我们 design 出来的 sudden 出来的 OK 没有 TV because guest 来是就来一次 because 你的 lifestyle 你的习惯你的家你要怎样是你自己的 lifestyle。现在的年轻的没有 TV， 但是他们喜欢放 projector small projector at the hall area， 他们可以现在的 projector 小小的可以搬来搬去 easy
有意思啊，因为我也是一个爸爸嘛，对吗？所以有时候孩子全部躲在房间。
Yes，
你刚才讲一个主意 not bad 了，就是说要是我要逼他出来的话，我就我们今晚是 movie night 就大家要出来，so I bring the cinema。which is a commercial space also， 不然就是吃咯，不然他全部躲在房间嘛。然后我家有一个 strict rule， 就是不可以在房间吃东西，所以不便他们一定要跑出来。So meaning that to a certain extent it's possible that we can take some of these commercial elements like just now Shawn 讲的，就是把一个 cinema 带到你的家，或者是把一个餐馆带到你的家，so that 他不便把孩子拉出来来跟我们有互动。Yeah, that's quite an interesting way of looking at it. Okay, let's talk about adaptability and integration of this work and bringing work home lah. I think as we all know, right, a few years ago we were challenged by the pandemic. 然后很多人逼不得已就把很多这些所谓的工作带回家。然后工作分成很多种嘛，有些人是厨师，在家做 home cafes 或者是 home F&B。pastry chef， 我老婆是其中一个啦，一直在想说她要做 chef 的。然后另一种呢，就是 like I think you have clients that actually do studio work, music mixing, then they bring this back. Then the large part of us because we are designers， 所以我们就把我们的家变成design studio 咯。So during this period of time， 我们就开始有很多这种 work from home component。但从疫情过后啊，会不会很多 client 跟你讲说，现在我要我的家有一个 dedicated 的工作室？来去 prepare in case 啦 either 是下一个 pandemic， 不然就是说因为我们现在有那种4天的 work week 然后有1天2天我一定会在家办公的。
For designer， 我们要 think about day 那个 workspace 可以用成use space for the little house。
那有个例子嘛
？OK， 我把我的家for 一个 folding glass 跟他。
所以你有个 folding glass door。Yes，
看是你要看你的 space 够不够，也是。现在新加坡的屋子越来越小，越来越贵。现在的 technology 又不一样。OK，same like glass。OK， 不要看到外面，它个是我们这的 glass。OK，crack frosted crack clear。OK， 跟它关起来，这个小小一个空间。
那个 smart glass 啊
？Yes， 对。
Commercially 人家会用的就是那个 smart glass，
yes.
然后你把它带来你的家。So very good example of commercial and residential usage. Leon, you leh?
I also believe in like what he mentioned about the dual functioning space. Don't dedicate one space just for work lah. The time spent there is not the majority of time you spend in the house ma. It could be maybe a study table for the kids as well. In the daytime is for the parents to work, sharing space lah. Actually, sometimes dining table could be a good space for kids to do homework. Yeah, but the parents might need a more private space. Let's say in the room. Whereby, for example, a dresser can be a meeting table also. Yeah, depends on how we design it lah.
Okay, we're going to ask confessions from you guys lah. I think just now while we were taking a break, right, Shawn was bringing up the subject about finances, which basically is a segue for us to go into like this question I was going to ask, right? How do you balance giving clients what they want versus what they actually need? And then we were talking about budget. 从我入行到现在啊 which is 很久啊。3万这个数据啊，一直在那边，对吗 ？GST 已经升到9% 了，对吧？然后孩子的学费以前3块半了，是吧？So 为什么还是有人一直在想说3万啊就可以装修了？有可能吗
？Some of them 可能 ，some of them 不可能。
做一个厨房啦，
做厨房 ，OK， 来建设的话 ，actually 最少了哈。你不要看有的是 package 最少是要6、7千、7、8千左右。
这只是厨卫啦，橱柜啊，没有。
appliances 不要讲先啦。
我们讲一个4房式的厨房啊，敲到完，防水啦，铺砖啦，厨啦 ，counter top 啦，灯啦 ，pipe 啦
，30左右了。
哇，so much 啊 ！resale 的还是
resale 的蛮大的
，resale 的蛮大。
OK， 我们讲 BTO 呢
BTO 我觉得也跑不掉啦 ，because the area 小也是省那1-2千。
New BTO 它不需要敲，它是 less 那个 hacking something that cost will be down 啦。OK， 3万你可以做 kitchen、bathroom， we call it new BTO， 不是 resale。resale 3万两个 toilet 一个 kitchen 没有掉了。
without tiling.
在座的我们有几个小天使哦，他们也是要开始装修了。他那天问我说：“哎，5万块哦，不够咩？”我说：“可以啊，够看你真的是要做什么咯。”
他们要 ask for pay raise 了。
你要 minimalist 的啦，这个
minimalist 就是说
loose furniture 要做。
it's like as very likely as just a base kitchen cabinet。我的侄儿啦或者我侄女他们想买屋子啊，然后他们叫我去看嘛，因为我以前做这个的嘛。然后他们叫我去看的时候，5 year MOP 的家，然后就是只是看到那个 base cabinet 都没有嘞，所以就是这样很 minimal 的做。所以 the reality 真的就是真的3万其实 cannot get you very far。resale 大敲的话 ，the price will go up。And if the project is actually 像那种20年、30年的 flat， 会不会需要更多
？confirm 要更多，
因为它要修补的地方太多了。
Yes， 它的 area 又大。For let's say 4 room resale， 你至少你的 budget 要7、8万起跳 ，because 20-30年的屋子 like electrician 那个 plumbing work，then 还有等下你要装 aircon， 这个3个你要用掉很多钱的。
这些都是其实是要所谓的重新 rewire 的。From what I understand is like HDB recommendation for plumbing and wiring is if the property is more than 15 years old, you must all redo. That's the ideal, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about let's say meeting customers' expectation. Do you have clients that come to you and treat you like 你是算命的？like I don't know 啊，我讲一个例子哦。以前我们在跑 exhibition 的时候 there will be a situation， 我坐在那个 client 就丢那个 floor plan 跟我，然后就跟我讲 ，OK， 你跟我讲我可以做什么。那我就看着他，我是 designer， 我不是算命的，你要跟我讲你要做什么嘛？对 ，have you got that situations like that?
Very rarely 啦 very rare. Because I think nowadays 很多 homeowner 都有自己想法了。
You can't prepare 啦。
Yeah, because a lot of resources is very available online 嘛。Yeah, so 可能跟以前有点不一样了。Yeah.
好像很老这样。
But there will be some clients who come to me, what's the best design? I got one client ask me, what's your best kitchen design? So a lot of question mark come out, what's the best? Yeah, that time I also doubting myself. I got a best kitchen.
What's best for me is not best for you.
Yeah, exactly. If I'm thrown that question, I will start digging from the client. Or show them past projects. Does this work for you? Does this work for you? I would like to share a lot of my different clientele and tell them, this is how people live their life and this is how it affects the different design that resulted from the design process.
Since we're talking about confessions, I don't know about you guys, but sometimes I find that 我们做这行有时候还要扮演family counseling 就是他们在谈的时候忽然间发现老公忽然间了解他其实不了解老婆，老婆才知道你原来我老公喜欢这样的东西的，但忽然间你就扮演说，因为你要那个 deal 嘛，你就在那边想说没有啦，可能他是想要这样的想法那样的想法，有没有这样的情况
有，这个会时常会发生
可不可以透露一些
一个家有时有孩子的更糟糕，我的孩子不懂要什么，那我跟他 design， 但他孩子一来，我不要这个 design， 有的是我不管，我做了才讲，连他的孩子不喜欢。现在老公老婆，老公要 B， 老婆要 A， 我了解他，连我们要调节 ，OK，A 跟 B combine 起来，再做一个设计给他们。
年轻夫妇呢，就是其实他们是还没有2个人住在一起嘛，第一次。刚不是讲第一次，就是刚结婚，然后其实是2个人开始了解 each other， 住在一起，生活方式会是什么样。所以这种情况他们很多时候会很真情透露，因为他们要花钱的嘛，这个东西一定是 must make good sense to them 嘛。But then that's when they realize that I'm impressed. Either they are impressed or they are suddenly very disappointed. 原来我老公喜欢这样的东西的。But if whether 是年轻夫妇还是到一个很成熟的一个 silver gen as a designer 这么资深的设计师then 你会不会觉得说 is there like a checklist or a guide that you can tell our audience what they should do beforehand before they come and visit a designer?
I think other than looking for aesthetics, I think that's a norm. People go through
they always go by look.
Yeah. I like this.
I only have this much. How?
Yeah. More tangible stuff.
Correct.
So the other thing is really lifestyle. And what you like seeing in your house every day versus what you like seeing on your phone I think it's 2 different things and then it's a lot of self-discovery Sometimes like that's not what you say we are like the counselor like that. Yeah, have to talk to them and then show them, hey, do you really like this? Then tell them the pros and cons, everything. So a lot of things is from yourself lah, not so much from the outside. And lifestyle is very individual ma. Yeah, so even sharing about work lah, I think it's very personal lah. Yeah, so maybe you really have to find a designer that you're very comfortable with, and then you can share everything, pour everything out on. Yeah, honestly, I work with my own friends before. Yeah, people always say taboo, I don't do for friends, but I do a lot of friends' place. And I love it because I know them so well. My first proposal, they'll be, wow, thank you. I felt the satisfaction. Yeah, that this communication is very forthcoming, very transparent.
But I think just now what you're talking about, this honest, somewhat brutal way of like that 我们大家都要自己问自己哦。So 你们会觉得说 should we like if this is a family project, right? 他们是不是应该有一个家庭会议线，然后沟通好了才来找个设计师，然后这样会比较有建设性。But 他们就算是开那个会啊，会不会开到变成吵架？所以会不会有说，要是我们讲啦 ，OK， 我们 contribute 啦，3样东西他们一定要讨论的啊。我们先 start with Shawn。
Kitchen， 老婆用还是老公用？OK， color scheme， 老公喜欢还是？
喂，等一下，为什么老公用跟老婆用有 difference？
有的是 OK， 老公不大进厨房了啊，就是老婆在用，她要那个防身啊、detail 啊，她要的。
OK，
如果老公用了，是他要怎样的 design 又不一样 ，color 男女有时 color 不一样。有的老婆她在她的房间，她要往dresser， 但老婆不要。Then 如果有孩子，给他的 room 要怎样？现在的 social media 很强，那个什么书、什么 dog、什么 YouTube， 全部都有的，一看不要。有时他们拿来，我要这样，这个要注意一下，这个是3个 kitchen、wardrobe and 有时 toilet。
I think one of the most important question I hope homeowners can really ask themselves.
Besides style and money,
it's like really what's your problem?
What's your problem?
Really, what's your problem? What's your problem? Yeah, what's your problem with the house? Yeah, so I think people deal with the house differently. Aesthetic is a problem also. Like wow, 难看呢. I want to make it nicer. That is a problem also. Or I have clients who I have 3 kids, but I only got 2 rooms. How? That is a problem also. Yeah, so that's our job. Designers is to find solutions.
So the identification of the problems.
Yeah.
That's the first question. Second question?
Then a bit more subjective. It's like how you use a space. For example, do you host or not? Yeah. Some clients they tell me I don't want people come to my house one. Yeah. I just want to be by myself. Yeah. Then some people is like, I host every weekend. I must have a very big table. Yeah. So this one will dictate how you use your space. Yeah. And then third one, how long are you going to stay there? Yeah. Then that one will dictate a lot of things already.
Like whether you future-proof or not.
Yeah. And then how will your family evolve over time? Yeah. Because I think this question will apply to a lot of younger homeowners. Most of them plan to sell in 5 years. Now too bad mature estate 10 years. Yeah. So that's the future planning.
That also would more or less have an impact on durability of materials. Hence the use of material, hence the pricing.
Correct.
So it all has a 导牌性的一种 effect lah. But I think you brought up this. I like the first question that you have, which is essentially asking people what's their problem law, listing out their problems. One of the way I can think of is especially if this is an existing home. You stay there for like so many years, right? 哪怕是它是不对的，你都已经适应它了。然后人是很容易适应的，所以哪怕是我要弯下腰去拿，我都已经拿了20年了，这不是错的。But I think 在一个设计师，强的设计师，在他眼里他其实是要看得到毛病，而且他是要提升你的生活方式的。which is basically 你现在要装修，其实就是一个 reset button 嘛，你重新再来，你会怎么做？So I think that is a very, very good way of kind of looking at it. Now we're moving on to the final segment, and this is actually where Astley stirs. The question is like this: have you ever had to hack a solution on site because the client idea was impossible to do? And then what did you do to make it work?
哇，我有遇到一个， OK 是做 hacking word，它的 wall 明明不可以 hack 的，
structural load bearing
它是 OK 一定要 hack
啊，还要黑是因为它很难看还是什么？
啊，要 hack 不是很难看，是要做成我的一个东西在那边，我的 house 看起来有个东西顶住，很难看，好像一个东西好像遮住我这样，这个不可以 hack， 要变成怎么样的一个东西 ？example 那个 pillar 我们不可以 hack， 但是 wall 我可以拿掉，要 make 那个 pillar look like 不是 pillar， 好像一个 storage 还是用一个 storage area 还是用 cabinet 点缀那个 pillar。OK， 这样来一个 pillar 拿来放一个 lighting or something， 做一个小小的 latch 可以 cover 住 this one not look like 那个 pillar。
所以就是 in a way just to make it purposeful, not make it an eyesore 啦。OK， 来，我们现在来看 second question。which space do you think people get wrong more often? Their homes or commercial spaces? Like they always make all the wrong decisions. Who is more prone to 犯错？
I feel it might be the office. Yeah.
来解说 Why?
We always say the home 花钱的人都在用。Then in the office 花钱的人 usually 没有在用啦。Means the 老板 all the bosses spend on the office space. Then the work area, like just now what we mentioned the work area maybe people don't treat it as importantly. So the decision making part may not be 100%. I'm sure there will be oversight yeah, compared to a home whereby every part of the space is used by yourself and you are dictating the functions and design direction. But in the office setup, a bit harder.
Because people come and go.
Yeah.
And their lifestyle and usage is different.
Yeah, and then work habits, work practices might be different, might evolve over time also. Yeah, so it's harder that way I feel.
As you are saying this, I think about the 升降桌子. There are some offices that has this 升降桌子 and all that and then for one period of time we all think that it's very good. And then previously I had done a project it's an office space. Outside the main hall, right, there are about 20 over desks. Every single desk is a 升降桌子. And 刚刚来的时候他们就也一直在用了。我大概6个月后再去 visit 他们的时候，没有人在用了。有一些桌子就是吊在那边然后那就没有再下来过，也没有人在用了。所以 so they made this kind of investment, right, which ultimately may not be wise But at home 的，因为你花了钱去买这个东西 ，I guess to a certain extent 你会因为这是你本来就要的嘛。刚才 Leon 讲到就是people come and go 嘛 ，maybe this person 本来就是可能他有关节炎什么上上下下很麻烦的。Maybe you design commercial space 你要很 neutral And so then you sometimes overspend 就是 wrong commitment
Or give more flexibility more room for changes
Yeah. Okay. And before we end, right, we're going to ask the two gentlemen here what kind of advice they can give to our audience here. For example, let's talk about the biggest mistake people make when they say that they want to make their house more productive.
Again, what's your problem? Yeah. I think again, I want to emphasize on the communication between the homeowner and the designer. Yeah, it's really need to be a very comfortable and forthcoming one. Yeah, if you hide anything, very hard for the designer to work. Even budget. Yeah, if you tell me not a realistic budget or something you are hiding, then very hard to 发挥. Yeah, then if that's the limit, then I will just keep to this limit. Because interior design is different from graphic design. I spoke to my designer friend before also. Graphic design, you can do a lot of fanciful things, but it's just a print. Yeah, but for interior design, whatever we put in is thousands of dollars one. Yeah, it's not something that is just one cost cover everything. Yeah, so I think that part there has to be the truthfulness
But this honesty is a bit challenging. I think if you're sitting in front of a homeowner and they don't know you, they are not friends, right? Then the likelihood they are very on guard, very defensive, and their main concern is that is this going to cost me an arm and a leg? How much things would be? And until they can get past this idea of how much things will cost, right, it's very hard for them to be honest one.
Yeah, I think another part is also the chemistry Yeah, so it's not just comparing quotations it's more of meeting up, talking to the person, and then certain chemistry lor.
Why do you think chemistry is important?
Because the project will last you, for me, like easily 5 months. Because design to renovation, all in all, a few months. You have to keep a good communication with this person. You have to be comfortable with this person. In fact, it's working together, it's a working relationship. Yeah, lor. So if you cannot tahan this person for 5 months, then it's very hard to move on into the project lah.
Okay, back to commercial. Would you say that because 一个家 is more personal, then 一个 commercial project is 他是上班的，我也是上班的 then do you think because of that, right, commercial project actually you all don't need to have a better relationship?
Maybe leh. Yeah, because commercial is more profit driven, more money involved, finances involved, and then I think a lot of times it's always money comes first.
So you just zero in. If I help you 省钱，你就是比 whether we have a good relationship.
You still need certain form of relationship, not a bad relationship. Yeah, because there will still be, if the office is there for very long, there will still need for maintenance, revamp, after sales service part lah. Not only just that project itself Yeah, so I won't say it's going to be, it's not as personal. Yeah, but don't go for someone with a bad relationship lah. Yeah.
So what I'm hearing, right? I'm hearing the nuances in what you're saying is that at the end of the day, because a home is a very personal space, people will be very emotional, and in that situation, right, it's good to have 一个良好的关系. Because if you want to build a home that really works for them, honesty comes in. Right? Honesty 很难 unlock 的 if you don't have a relationship. Whereas 当我们在做一个商业项目其实就把利字摆中间，它是很 straightforward 的。Relationship 是来帮忙我们做工，可是 at the end of the day, right, to fulfill this project, 利字摆在先So I guess that's what I hear from what you're saying 啦。There are still many homeowners 来讲说，他们要他们的家像 hotel 啦，像 cafe 啦，像有一些还 RGB 的灯啊。然后你觉得为什么还是有很多人想要把自己的家做到像 commercial project 这样？为什么这样啊？
这个是想象和现实是 different way。想象我要的我的家 look like 这样，如果现实的话，你坐在你的家，你有点哇不懂是这样。每一个人都有一个我要我的家 home look like 哇 comfort 哇很温暖，但是 is the office 不是的，因为 office 是 heavy traffic 的，你的家是自己的。then 我是 advice OK 有可能 homeowner 他喜欢的这个 design， 刚才来 hotel 一阵子他喜欢，maybe certain but 1年后、2年后、3年后他会不喜欢厌倦了。OK， 我是 advice 我的 customer， 如果你要 hotel design， 你1年出国几次 ？OK， 我的一个 customer， 我1年出很多次的国，那你可以去享受那个 facility， 那个 hotel， 但是 house 是你每天要回家的，那有你自己的 style，hotel 不一样的 style， 我是 advice 他们是这样做。
Okay, I think we've heard quite a fair bit of advices from these two gentlemen. Shawn from Rezt and Relax, we've got like 是几年啊？10几年
，20多年了
，20多年的装修经验。And our friend Leon from Free Space in 10， 也是 decades 啦也是 decades in the industry. Okay, with that, right, we've come to the end of this episode of the SIXiDER Show, Season 2. If you like what you're seeing, right, please like, share, comment, send to your father, mother, grandmother to watch. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.